welcome you in geological knowledge. So in the previous video, two videos, we have discussed about the unconformity and the unconformity and basement cover relationship, and that was a very important video for the GSI mains or some other alternative or objective type exams like GATE, NET or GSI or GSI pre. So that was an important video, and if you have not watched that video, go into the playlist of the channel and you can watch it. And today we will discuss another very important topic of structural geology, that is the time relationship between the crystallization and deformation. So what does it mean? That is the time relationship means that what was the time for the deformation as well as the crystallization process. So whether it was going side by side with the at the same side by side means at the same time when the crystallization was going, the deformation was also taking place, or it was going intertectonic means in the tectonic regions, or the syntectonic means with the pre-tectonic means before the deformation. Okay, so first the crystallization took place and then the deformation took place. Or intertectonic means during the process of the crystallization the deformation has taken place. And syntectonic means same time. Syn means at the same time. So syntectonic deformation or the relationship, that means the crystallization process as well as the deformation process that was going side by side. And the post tectonic, so post tectonic means the crystallization took place and then the deformation of the rocks or the deformation of the material or the rock system that took place. So that is the meaning of the time and time relationship between the crystallization and the deformation process. Okay, so that is the purpose of our this present module or present discussion, that is to decipher what is the time relationship between the process of crystallization and the process of deformation. So before we start our discussion, there are some basic terminologies which are very important for you to understand and some basics for the topic. So firstly we will understand that is what is porphyroblast and what is a porphyroclast. So porphyroblast and porphyroclast, these are two very important terminologies, and if you are not aware with the terminologies, it will be very difficult for you to understand between these two terms, because these two are very distinct terms. So what is a porphyroblast? So that is a large mineral, okay, large mineral crystal. A porphyroblast is a large mineral crystal in a metamorphic rock which has grown within the finer grained matrix. Okay, so suppose a large or the larger mineral crystal in the metamorphic rock which has grown within the fine grained matrix. So porphyroblast, they are commonly euhedral in crystals. Actually, though it's not right at all the time, but generally or commonly they are euhedral in nature, but they can also be partly to completely irregular in shape, as we are discussing it. So the most common porphyroblast in metapelites, they are the metamorphosed mudstone and the siltstone. Okay, so metapelites, and they are garnets and staurolite which stand out in well foliated metapelites such as schist against the platy mica. Okay, so this is a almandine garnet which has growing as a porphyroblast in quartzite gneiss. Okay, so as you can see, the almandine garnet, that is the porphyroblast, and the growing as a porphyroblast in a quartzitic gneiss. Okay, so the larger mineral or the larger grain that is embedded in, or that has been porphyried by it, means makes the periphery of the garnet, almandine garnet mineral. Okay, and this is another example, the dark colored porphyroblast of garnet which is red in color in mica schist at Syros, Greece. Okay, And the another term, the pyrofylloclast. So only one letter is changed. Pyrofyroblast, that is B, pyrofyroblast, and this is pyrofylloclast. So pyrofylloclast is a clast or the mineral fragment in a metamorphic rock that has been surrounded by a ground mass of finer grained crystals. So the pyrofylloclasts are fragments of the original rock before dynamic crystallization or cataclastic production. Cataclasis produced the ground mass. So, okay, so pyrofylloclasts, they are the fragments of the original rock before the process of the dynamic recrystallization or the cataclasis produced the ground mass. So this means that they are older than the ground mass. Okay, so means the pyrofylloclast, they are older than the ground mass. An example, as you can see, so here a mylonite that is showing a number of rotated pyrofylloclasts here. Okay, so a clear red garnet in the center, as you can see in the left hand side, you can see a red garnet in the picture, while the smaller one is the feldspar mineral, the white mineral, that is feldspar. Okay, and this is another term or very another picturization of the some important figure that shows the shadow zones. The green color dotted lines, they are showing the shadow zones, and the black lines, they shows the cleavage domains, and the dashed line shown by red color, they are showing the microlithons. So what are microlithons? So they are the less deformed domains, they are the less deformed areas of rock between the regions of a well developed cleavage. Okay, so microlithons, they are the less deformed domains of rock between regions with a well developed cleavage. Okay, and microlithons are particularly well refined in rock with the spaced crenulation cleavage. Okay, so here the crenulation cleavage are present, so microlithons are particularly well developed in rock with the spaced crenulation cleavage. Okay, and the SI as well as SE, these are very important terms. So SI is the internal indicator as well as the SE, that is external indicator. Okay, and this is corona, not that corona pandemic virus, that is not here. So corona and the motes. So I have drawn this diagram, but when we will discuss in detail, we will discuss all these things. Okay, so and here is another very important diagram that is also there. So this diagram shows the picturization of all the pre-tectonic, intertectonic as well as the syntectonic and post-tectonic. So as you can see in the diagram, I will provide the link in the description box where from here you can download this figure, or I will provide the PDF file of the link of the PDF file in the description box, and that you can download from the Telegram channel. Okay, so this is the schematic representation of pre, inter and syn and post tectonic porphyroblast growth. So the left hand part of the diagram, that refers to the deformation resulting in a single foliation deformation, or the deformation of an earlier foliation without any folding pattern. Okay, so the on the left hand side diagram, they show the porphyroblast without any deformation, while the right hand side diagram, that part considers the deformation resulted in the crenulation of an order foliation, as you can see. Okay, so the diagram A, C, E or the G, they are before the or without any deformation or without any foliation. Okay, and the diagram D, B, D, F and H, they are the deformation causing the folding of the matrix foliation. Okay. So the A and B, focus on the A and B diagram. So they are showing strong foliation deflection and randomly oriented inclusions, as you can see in the diagram. So in the diagram A and B, they are showing strong foliation, okay, and the deflection and randomly oriented inclusions, and intertectonic pyroclast as in the diagram C and D. So they grew positively passively over a fabric in absence of the deformation, as you can see. So in the diagram C1, C1 3, in the 3 diagram, C3 diagram, you can see that the pyrophyroblast, they grew passively over a fabric in absence of the deformation and protect the resulting inclusion pattern from the later deformation. Okay, an inclusion pattern are also usually state but more complex situation, that is C4. In the C4 you can see that is the situation is very complex. Okay, and the complex situation C4 in the C4 diagram, they can also possible, and C2 as well as E3, C2 and E3 diagram, as you can see C2 and E3 diagram, sorry, C2 and E3, they are known as millipede structure. Okay, and sick tectonic porphyroblasts we talk about, these are E and F. So they have grown during a phase of deformation. Okay, and inclusion pattern are usually curved and continuous with the fabric outside the pyrphyroblast, and so evidence of having been modified during the pyrphyroblast growth. Okay, as in the diagram E and F you can see, especially in the F diagram you can see that the pyrphyroblast, they have also been deformed. Okay, the foliation pattern that has been deformed, but the pyrphyroblast, they have also been deformed during the process of overgrowth or the folding process. So the distinction of syn and intertectonic pyrphyroblast is usually difficult. Okay, since the transition occurs and differences the is usually difficult since the transition occurs and usually differences are subtle, as in the diagram C1 and E1, as you can see here, C1 and E1 diagram. Okay, and the E4 and C4 diagram, as you can see in the E4 and C4 diagram here, sorry, E4 and C4 diagram you can see, that is an F1 diagram. So post tectonic pyrphyroblast, if we talk about the post tectonic pyrphyroblast, so they have grown after the cessation of deformation. Okay, so the inclusion pattern identical to the continuous with the external fabric, as you can see in the diagram F and G. Okay, the inclusion pattern that is identical to the to and continuous with the external fabric. So no strain shadow or strain caps or deflection of foliations have been developed. Okay, so this is very important diagram and you can see here. Okay, and this is another explanation. So examples of a relative age diagram for a single thin section of a mica cyst. So chlorite is pre-D1, as you can see, chlorite is pre-D1, as well as garnet is intertectonic between D1 and D2, and staurolite is pre and syn D2, and biotite has growth phases. Okay, as you can see in the biotite, one D1 and the other syn D2, syn post D2. Albite has grown post D2. Okay, so this was our diagram, and I will provide the link, as I have said, in the description box, from where you can download the figure or this picture. So now we will come to our chapter, that is the time relationship between deformation and crystallization. So the structures of different stages of evolution, they are generally recognized by the tracing them for the less deformed areas to an area where deformation is large. Okay, that means the tracing them from a less deformed area to an area where the deformation is large. So if there is one less deformed area and there is another highly deformed areas, so we can trace the distinguishness, we can differentiate between these two patterns as well as the resulting structures, as well as distinguishing them by their morphology in different parts of the same area, as well as from the overprinting relationship of successive generations of the structures. Okay. And another method which has been of great importance as the relative dating technique of structures is to determine the time of formation of the structures with reference to the time of crystallization of metamorphic minerals. Okay, so as we have discussed the three criteria, so besides these three criteria, we have also another criteria to define the relationship between the crystallization and deformation, and that method is the technique of structures is to determine the time of formation of structures with reference to the time of crystallization of metamorphic minerals. Okay, so while the if we talk about the primary objective, so primary objective of a metamorphic petrologist is in the context is to obtain a sequence of crystallization of the minerals. Okay, what I mean to say is that the objective or the main purpose of a metamorphic petrologist is to obtain what is the sequence of the crystallization of minerals. Okay, means in what sequence the minerals have crystallized. So the primary objective of a structure, and if we talk about the primary objective of a structural geologist, that is to obtain the time sequence of structures. Okay, so metamorphic petrologists that obtain the sequence of the crystallization of minerals, as well as structural geologists, they obtain the time sequence of structures. Okay. So the classic example of Cowell albite, okay, this is very fine and very classic example of Cowell albites. So pyrphyroblast of albites as well as the pyrphyroblast of other minerals like garnet and starolite. We have talked about the very important minerals, that is mainly the aluminosilicate minerals. Okay, especially the andalusite, kyanite or the sillimanite, or some other minerals like garnet, biotite, plesioclase, okay, or the hornblende or staurolite. So these are the very important minerals as the pyrphyroblast. Okay, they often have a parallel trails or the trends of the tiny inclusions of the ground minerals. Okay, or the minerals of iron ore, graphite or etc. So mineralization that varies. So these trails or the trends of the inclusion, they are especially or basically the relics of an earlier S surface or the bedding or cleavage surfaces. Okay, so these trails or the trends we are talking about of these inclusions, so they are the relics of an earlier formed S surface or the bedding or cleavage surface. And the trail of the inclusion within the pyrphyroblast, that is known as, we have talked about Si means the internal structure, internal surface, while the planar structure in the matrix of the rock, that is known as Se or the external surface, okay, or the external structure. So what is the sequence of the crystallization? So the crystallization of a mineral can be earlier than the synchronous with or later than the deformation. Or in other term we can say that whether it can be syn or pre-tectonic, means the deformation or the crystallization that can be synchronous with or the later than the deformation. So these time relationship are described as the pre-crystalline deformation, post-tectonic or post-kinematic crystallization. Okay, paracrystalline deformation, paratectonics, syntectonics, or the synkinematic crystallization, and the post-crystalline deformation, pre-tectonic or the pre-kinematic crystallization. Okay, so these are the pre-crystallization deformation, paracrystalline deformation, and the post-crystalline deformation. So these are the three types of crystallization processes, the crystallization as well as the subsequent deformation processes. And today we will talk only about the pre-crystalline deformation, and the remaining paracrystalline and the post-crystalline deformation, that we'll talk about in the next video. Okay, so we talk about the pre-crystalline deformation. So to emphasize that a certain metamorphic event that took place during the late stage of a period of deformation, we may also use the term late tectonic or late kinematic. Okay, kinematic. To emphasize that a certain metamorphic event that can take place during the late stage or the period of deformation. So for that term we use the term late tectonic or the late kinematic. So where there is a sequence of crystallization events or a sequence of the deformation events, the term pre, para and post crystalline deformation becomes meaningful only when we specify the time of crystallization of a certain mineral with reference to the particular deformation. Okay, so how these terms are used? So we can use these terms pre, para and post kinematic or the post crystalline deformation only if we are in condition to specify the time of crystallization of a certain mineral with the reference to a particular deformation pattern. Okay, means at what time the crystallization has taken place and at what time the deformation is taking place. So only then at that situation we can define pre, para and the post tectonic or the post crystalline deformation. So when a cold work metal is heated up, the deformation grains recrystallize. So this process is described as static recrystallization. Okay, means when a cold work metal is heated up, so that deformation is known as static recrystallization, to distinguish it from the dynamic crystallization which takes place during the deformation of a metal at a elevated temperature. Okay, so dynamic crystallization that take place at an elevated or the higher temperature. So when hot deformation comes to an end but the temperature is still high, so recrystallization may continue without an incubation period. So this later process has been described as metadynamic recrystallization. Okay, so especially what I'm saying that, so hot deformation that comes to an end, if the deformation pattern or the deformation has came to an end but the temperature is still high, so recrystallization may continue without an incubation period. So this later process of deformation or the recrystallization, that is known as metadynamic recrystallization. Okay, so now we will talk about the pre-crystalline deformation. So the pyroblast of, we have talked earlier the important pyroblast, these of garnet, chloritite, albite or other minerals of aluminosilicates. Okay, sometimes show a straight SI parallel to the more or less straight cleavage of the ground mass. Okay, so the cleavage does not sever around the pyroblast. Okay, when a straight SI that is parallel to the less straight cleavage of the ground mass, the cleavage doesn't sever around the pyroblast, as you can see in the diagram. Okay, 22.A, 22.1A and 22.7A, as you can see here. So this diagram deals with the microstructures indicating the pre-crystalline deformation. Okay, as you can see there are 4 diagrams, and we have also already talked about that SI, that is the internal indicator, okay, and SE, that is external indicator. So in the A diagram, the pyrphoroblast of garnet, that is overgrowing a straight cystosity, as you can see. And in the B diagram, okay, the helicitic structure with a pyrphoroblast of garnet that is overgrowing a crenulated cystosity, as you can see in the B diagram. And in the C diagram, you can see the undeformed traverse mica or chlorite across the cystosity, as you can see here. The mica mineral, okay, so that is undeformed traverse. And the polygonal arc of undeformed flakes of mica which crystallize after the development of the microfold, as you can see in the diagram D. Okay, so here the diagram I was talking about, the pyrphoroblast a straight SI parallel to the more or less straight cleavage of the ground mass. So that was of figure 22.1A, that is here. Okay, the microstructure clearly indicates that the crystallization of the pyrphoroblast that was after the development of a cleavage. That's why the cleavage has not been deformed. Okay, in the figure 22.1A, as you can see here, I'm already again showing it, that is the deformation has taken place after the deformation has taken place after the crystallization. Okay, in a similar way, the pyrphoroblast in certain rocks have overgrown the granulation of the cleavage, the wavy SI passing into and having the same form of the granulation cleavage, granulation of the SE. So this microstructure sometimes described as helicitic structure or the helicitic structure, as you can see in the diagram 22.1b we have talked about here. 22.1b, this one. Okay, the folded. Okay, this microstructure sometimes described as helicitic structure, indicating the granulations are precrystalline with the reference to the pyrphoroblast of or the pyrphoroblast are post-tectonic with reference to the granulation. And the post-tectonic crystallization is also indicated by the occurrence of large unstrained flakes of mica or chlorite occurring at a high angle to the cystosity plane. Okay, or the polygonal arc of unstrained mica flakes that retain the form of older microfolds. Okay, so in the post tectonic crystallization, that is also indicated by the occurrence of a large unstrained flakes of mica or chlorite that is occurring at a high angle to the cystosity, or the by polygonal arc of unstrained mica flakes that retains the form of old microfolds, as you can see in the diagram 21.1C and D. Okay, so C1 deals with the mica flakes, the undeformed traverse of mica chlorite across the cystosity plane, and the D1, that is the polygonal arc of undeformed flakes of mica which crystallized after the development of the microfold. Okay, so this was precrystalline deformation, and in the next video we will talk about the para as well as the post crystallization deformation. Okay, thank you.